Hello and welcome to Chennai Live. This is Garage 101. My name is Vignesh. I'm from TryCarPal.com. We are a virtual dealership for new cars.
And hi, my name is Rajiv from CarGreetings.com. We are India's first online greetings company. And today we have something very special for you guys. It isn't about cars, but it is about. Why don't you take the lead?
It's not about cars like the other show is, but this is going to be about how you get these cars. Right? We're talking about the dealership business, the business of selling cars, and a lot of people have misconceptions about how the industry works, and so we are here to break all of them and give you the facts.
Absolutely, and today's show is titled "How Dealerships Work in India."
Perfect. Amazing. Now, so I think Rajiv, it's important to just define the word dealer, right? Because you have your electronics dealerships, you have your automobile dealerships, but somehow the automobile dealerships are seen to be a very glorified one, right?
Absolutely.
Because electronic dealerships are all like multi-brand, right? You go to a Vivek's or a Shah's, you get so many brands. But when it comes to automobile dealerships, it's just one brand, right? At a particular location. So a dealer, by definition, is basically someone who buys and then sells, right? Why do we need dealerships? Is because a manufacturer of a certain, say, car in this case, needs to have their distribution set up, right? Because a manufacturer alone cannot go to the depths of the country and the geographies of the country to sell, get the awareness, sell, and service, right? That's the whole point of having dealerships and a distribution network in the first place.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So just like any other dealer, an automobile dealer buys cars from the manufacturer and sells them to us.
I just wanted to ask you, Vignesh, basically, a lot of people don't know that fact which you just stated, is that the dealerships don't get the cars from the manufacturer for nothing.
No.
They have to buy it just like how we buy it from the dealership, right?
Absolutely.
So how does that process work, you think?
So a dealer, has to buy inventory from the manufacturer, right? That's how inventory is what keeps the industry rolling. Because in the business of selling cars, at least from a manufacturer's perspective, someone has to always carry inventory. A manufacturer doesn't. Right. So when you see numbers say, Maruti Suzuki sold 10,000 cars a month, that's a small number. But anyway, if you just take that as an example, which it means that 10,000 cars have rolled out from the plant and is now with dealerships, right? It's not final sales, it is with the dealerships. So dealerships are buying cars from the manufacturer at a set price and selling it to a customer at said ex-showroom price. So there is an ex-factory price.
So what does the term ex-showroom actually mean?
Ex-showroom price, right? So ex-showroom price is basically the invoice value of the car. That's how much the value of the car is.
At the manufacturer side, or is it with the with the dealerships?
There's a production cost, right? Okay. So let's say a car costs a fairly big car costs 5 lakhs to produce from a manufacturer, right? On top of which they have, they have a marketing expenditure, they have so many other expenses, R&D expenses and whatnot that are divided, and then the manufacturer arrives at an ex-factory price.
Oh, right? So that's called an ex-factory price. So the car at the source where it is created or manufactured.
The manufacturer's stamp, pricing tag on the car is ex-factory, on top of which you apply 28% GST. And varying levels of cess depending on the slab. So if it's a small car with petrol, less than 1200 cc and less than 4 meters in length, for example, it's going to be 1% cess. But if it's diesel, it's 3% cess. And if you go in for a car like a Hyundai Creta or a Kia Seltos or MG Hector and so on, you're looking at 17% cess.
So after which it comes to the showroom.
After that, it's the ex-showroom price. So obviously, manufacturers have to sort of reverse the whole thing, right? So they look at how do I target the ex-showroom price and then sort of, reverse it back and say, this is how my ex-factory price should be, right? And therefore, this is what should be my production cost, right? That's how they would bring about this. Anyway, let's not get deviated into how that works. So the dealer basically buys cars from the manufacturer and, that's what is called wholesale.
Okay.
Right? So a dealer is buying, say, 100 cars from a manufacturer and because you're buying 100, they get a good margin on the cars. Right?
They get
And
a
then-
discount from the manufacturer
Exactly,
sometimes.
exactly, right.
If it's a car that's not selling that great, I'm sure that they want, even the manufacturers want to try to push their stock as well. right?
Absolutely. So,
And yeah.
manufacturers have their own,
Which then
it's a leverage play
Yeah,
ultimately.
which then come into the showroom, and then the showroom hands over some discounts to us and to get to help us buy it.
Hopefully, yeah. So the dealership basically buys the inventory, and then stocks it and then sells it. Right? That's how the dealership works. Right? So the interesting question here is that that a lot of people have asked me is, how do you become an automobile dealer?
Okay.
Right, so it's not like a regular dealership understanding where you just buy and sell. You need to have a certain level of credibility in the industry, because
And can I touch upon that point,
Yeah.
if you don't mind? So, one of the things that I know from my experience is that the manufacturers are quite picky and choosy when it comes to giving especially if it is the higher up the brand. Okay, I wouldn't say higher up the brand you go, it's more they're into picky and choosy, but everybody wants to make sure that you have some experience backing
True.
what investment. It's not just about the money. So it's not someone who's got a jewelry store who's extremely wealthy and he says, you know what, I want to have a car brand and I want to. It doesn't work like that, does it?
It not all the time, but
Okay.
a dealer.
It has happened, but then it's,
Manufacturer prefers to have a dealership,
experience.
dealer partner in this case, with some experience, right? So, and very importantly, it's not just the experience; it's also the financial credibility of this dealership, right?
Okay.
How wealthy are they, for example? How much land they have, or how much land they are planning to rent out? I mean, planning to take on rent and things like that, because it's not just the showroom that you see; it's also the service center, it's also the yard for the inventory, and so on. So there are a lot of things involved. So a manufacturer sees all that. They see, they scrutinize every director over there, what their capacity is, what their capabilities are, how compliant they are also at the same
absolutely,
time.
yes.
Right. So all this, and then they arrive at, okay, let's appoint say XYZ as the dealership.
so the
for
one
brand.
who buys that is called the dealer principal, I think,
Exactly.
right?
So
the person who owns that particular showroom
Exactly.
or dealership. is
So
called
it's
a
very important that this dealer principle aligns with the vision and mission of the brand, right? Because ultimately they are the ones representing the brand, right? So they are the face of the brand in that particular geography. So it's very important that you have a very credible dealer partner, a very credible dealership group for that matter.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yes,
so
yes, you're right.
getting an automobile dealership is not that easy. You need to have land, or at least you need to be able to rent land
or
that
lease a
extent.
land
Yeah.
out.
But from what I've seen, if a dealer, most successful dealer groups have their own land or have their own building, right? Which means
I
that
agree, yeah.
they are not entirely into the automobile business. They have other businesses as well.
So the most successful, if you guys are wondering, the most successful dealership in India is in the south. And the whole of India, it's called Sundaram Motors. They have Mercedes-Benz dealerships.
Yeah, they have Mercedes,
And,
they have,
Volkswagen
Volkswagen,
dealerships.
Honda.
They have Honda dealerships. It is a fray they did not want to get in initially, but when they got into it, it really did
True,
wonders
yeah.
for them. Because of the way they had structured and, like you said, aligned with the mission of the
Absolutely,
manufacturer.
yeah.
Did a good job. Great
True.
job.
So a manufacturer also has to keep in mind that there are not too many dealerships for the same market, right?
Okay.
So if the market size is limited for the products or the portfolio that the manufacturer has, it becomes a double-edged sword to have too many dealerships.
I might be, it's a ballpark, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think there are roughly south of 70 dealerships for Mercedes, but when you take Maruti,
Yeah.
that number is almost 10 times, if not more.
Because the market
I think
size,
it's much more.
because the Maruti has a huge market share, and
Yeah.
therefore it needs to support that market share with as many outlets as possible, and that's what makes Maruti a very.
I hope
trustworthy
I'm
brand.
aligning with your thoughts.
Absolutely,
now,
absolutely. Right. So the happier the dealer, happier the customers, and therefore for a manufacturer, the dealer is the first customer.
Right.
So the manufacturer is so bothered about the dealership's profitability, right? And therefore they restrict. For example, some brands have only one dealership group for a particular region. If you take Skoda for Chennai,
Okay.
right? Or if you take Citroen for Chennai right now, because they're coming up, they
Right.
have only one brand. MG Motors, for example, have only one dealership group for a good number of locations, right?
Right.
So all this is to ensure that the dealership has profitability, because when you have more dealerships involved, you are already thinning down the already thin volumes,
Yeah.
right? So let's say you have 1,000 aspirants for a particular brand.
Yeah.
This sort of, if you have 2 dealerships, then you're looking at that volume being
So
split.
overall, the question that everybody is asking, I mean, at least I have that
Yeah.
question. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have that question. Is you pass by a showroom and you see how big it is. It looks beautiful. It's amazing. It just looks like there's so much money to be made.
Understood, yeah.
Can you explain
It could
if that
give
is
you-
true? It's a true or false?
It could give you a false sense of success.
Yeah, but is
right?
it? But I know I've heard quite a few people who've done really well.
Absolutely.
I mean, through service. I mean, so my dad's been in service. So the one thing I have noticed is a lot of these dealerships rely on the service first. Can we
True.
talk about the service? A little
Absolutely.
bit? I mean, how does that?
So,
So once the car is bought by us,
yeah, so right. So when a dealership sells, right, so their profit margin is on, the margin that they realize on a car. It would vary between manufacturers, but roughly,
Right.
the more cars bought, more margins they have. But more cars you buy is also a double-edged sword, because you have to sell as many
Right.
to ensure that
so you have to
the
be
profitability.
confident that you can sell it.
Keep in mind that no dealership right now is cash rich, in the sense
Right.
it's not like, if it's not easy to buy 100 cars from a manufacturer,
Okay.
right? Because that would go into hundreds of crores.
Right.
So there are banks, there are financial institutions.
So just
that-
like what's happening with us,
Exactly.
with the showroom is
Exactly.
happening with the manufacturer.
right? So the banks or NBFCs or however it is,
Right.
right? They are funding the dealerships for inventory acquisition. So the dealership's margin, you have to keep in mind, is, let's say, 1,000 rupees for the sake of argument.
Okay.
You have an interest component plugged in.
Okay.
Right? More cars they buy, they have a better margin, yes, but more cars they buy, more cars are going to be, stagnant over there if they don't sell. For example,
Right.
if you have taken so many cars on, say, through the OEM's associated finance wing, the OEM has this sort of leverage to say, you know what, because we're funding you these, you have to take these cars.
Right.
Right, that's the arm twist over there, right? So that's what makes it little more challenging. So dealers, unfortunately, are sort of put in that pressure when it comes to inventory funding to get more and more and more funding, to buy more and more cars, to realize more margins, but they also have a discount to sell faster. So, so it's a very big gamble, a large scale gamble that dealerships make, right? So the ultimate margin that the dealership makes is margin on the car from the manufacturer minus the interest they is sold on
So
the car.
not so much selling the car makes you the money, but once you service the
Buying.
car, I think you get a far more higher percentage the dealership gets to keep, correct?
True, yeah. So because once you sell, right,
Then it's up to you to take care of your customers.
Stops there, and then it's about service.
And that's where
And
the
service is lifetime,
margins
at least for the lifetime of that particular vehicle, right? So you're looking to get this customer in, get this car in every once in a year, right? So you're looking at making more and more money. That's like lifetime value of the car.
this dealership,
Yeah.
on the whole, what would you think people don't know about it?
What people
We can
don't
end it
know
at that,
is the financial pressure a dealership goes through, right? Purely because of inventory.
Okay.
Inventory we're talking only about the cars purchased in one side. There's also inventory for stocks, the stock of, say, spare parts, right? Because they have to
Right.
plan ahead for the next few months about.
So a whole lot of logistical.
For example, if there's a car, right? So if a dealership has sold, say, 1,000 Honda Cities, they need to plan for at least 30% of bumpers to be ready at any given point of time.
I see. Okay, so
Because
so you
a
don't want
car
to make
is likely to come back, right? Saying, sorry,
Right.
there was an accident. But that's not the only revenue channel. There's also, the auxiliary revenue channels for a dealership. There's the insurance, there is there's the finance, that is getting the customer funded.
Right.
Which right now, which is a big deal because banks give the dealerships.
Let's not forget accessories.
Of course, yeah.
Accessories is a
right?
big business
So
these days.
a manufacturer also plans the incentives for the dealership based on what all add-ons they sell. So if a dealership sells extended warranty, then there is a small percentage of an additional kickback that the dealership gets. Let's face it, right? A dealer is not selling something that they own, that they make.
Right.
They are just selling something that somebody else makes. So they are ultimately a point of sale, but that point of sale fact comes with a lot of baggage. Right. So, yes, I mean, being in the automotive business is cool, not denying it.
Yeah.
It's also a lot of pressure. It's a lot of money to be made, but you need to have some advantages. If you play it right, if you play it smart, and if you play it clean, you have a lot of money to make.
So, Vignesh, this last question of today's topic is, we've been talking about dealerships that are out there, lot of people with the land and all the means to do it. What if you really have the passion to work in the automotive industry and you want to sell cars? That's exactly why I've been asking you these questions, because you are the man for that, and that's why you run your CarPal. That's also a dealership. It's an online dealership.
Yeah.
So, how does that work, and what do you think
so,
about it?
a dealer by default owns the inventory, right? So, and it's also about the amount of land involved. So, the one way I figured you can sell is to sell virtually, because in this day and age, you don't need a physical outlet to sell, because most test drives are at home.
So if they want to test drive from you, can they call CarPal and say,
of course you can, right? Provided you're actually buying, that's a different issue, right? So even if you look at dealership, right? So most of the inquiries they get right now is online. It's either through their Facebook ads or the manufacturers' initiatives when it comes to digital, marketing. It's Just Dial and things like that give leads to dealerships. Very few people actually walk in. Right. Even those that walk in are sort of influenced through some other digital marketing initiative, and then they walk in. So the true requirement of a physical outlet is completely diminished, which means that you don't need a physical point of sale. You can have a digital point of sale.
So 10 years, 15 years from now, in fact, now when you go to the website, you see a 360-degree view of the car.
Absolutely, yes,
and you see all of those things.
True. Also, the next part is the inventory, right? Because you still have to carry the inventory, and we don't have deep pockets for that, right? So what we do is, there are dealerships who have the inventory, and because there are so many dealerships for a particular brand, inventory always keeps mounting one month over the other. So when the dealership has inventory, why not sell? You're basically helping them out by diluting stock. But there are manufacturers that are taking up this format as well. For example, Citroën, right? They're coming in with what they call a phygital platform or phygital model. So you have physical outlets, purchase is digital.
I see.
So you go into a physical outlet to sort of experience the car. We don't know exact specs.
It would be nice if it is a little, are you able to give slightly more discounts than the dealership sometimes?
Ideally, yes. Yes. I mean, ultimately, we're not in the business to sell discounts. Everybody wants to have that.
I hope I have not offended you.
Of course not.
Just wondering.
That's my principle. I mean, discounts are
if the product is good, then it's good.
Of course, if it's a product that sells, you don't need to discount it.
Thank you so much, Vignesh, for sharing this knowledge. And so this is Vignesh for you guys from CarPal. It's an online dealership. Hope you guys have understood how dealerships actually work. And if you guys have any questions, put it on the comments below. And if you're a dealership, we hope we've been in the ballpark of what you were thinking. So thank you so much. My name is Rajiv from CarGreetings.com.
This is Vignesh from TryCarPal.com.
We are Garage 101 from Chennai Live. Until next time, goodbye.